Novoselovka, and continued to carry out fights in Drobyshevo and Yarovaya in those villages. Now, Yampol has been liberated. We are moving towards Krasny Liman, which is the largest railroad hub in the region. We've also taken under control the outskirts and the town proper of Maslekovka. So the West Army Group continues to carry out its operation as per the special military operation goals. This concludes my report. Yes, everything that you have reported to us on the 25th of October at the previous session that I mentioned before, all of those things, when it comes to the direction that you're responsible for, all of the goals have been carried out. So thank you for your work. I'd like to thank you and the troops and the officers, everyone involved. You've shown great results. Yes, I serve my motherland. So I'm sure and confident that all the things that we've spoken before and the things that we are going to discuss today in private, I'm sure that all of that will be carried out in full as we've agreed. And so, like I said, we need to do this to achieve all the goals of the special military operation in your parts, in your areas of responsibility. Yes, Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, all the goals will be accomplished.
Okay, we were just listening there to the Russian president in his position as Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Armed Forces. He was at a military command post there near the Western Front. The most significant news line it appeared to be was that Kupiansk has been fully taken under Russian control by the 6th Army. Many Ukrainians are still there, surrounded, and the Russian leader says they must be allowed to surrender. Essentially, a large number of areas have been secured. One other one we heard a lot about in the news, Konstantinovka in Donetsk, the military chief in charge of his forces there, the Russian leader, says that the concentration will now be on taking that city. He gave it away a little bit, saying that by mid-December, that was the aim. The Russian leader actually just saying, let's not put a date on it, but let's move at progress. And thank you to all for the updates and for their service there. So the very latest updates from the Ukrainian conflict there, the Russian leader out on location near the Western Front line. More on that as the day progresses. Okay, let's turn attention to the Middle East, where Israeli warplanes have reportedly crossed the Syrian border as tensions grow on that frontier. This footage circulating on social media is said to show trails left by warplanes across the Syrian skyline. IDF activity in the region has intensified recently with a bombardment of southern Lebanon and troops deployed in the Israeli-Syrian buffer zone. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu, along with his defense and foreign ministers this week, inspected IDF advanced positions in the Golan Heights. The Israeli PM claimed that the push deeper into the territory would benefit his nation's security as well as protect the Druze minority community in Syria.
We attach immense importance to our capability here, both defensive and offensive, safeguarding our Druze allies, and especially safeguarding Israel and its northern border opposite the Golan Heights. This is a mission that can develop at any moment.
Mr. Netanyahu has drawn international criticism for his visit to the Golan Heights buffer zone. IDF forces seized the area from Syria last year following the collapse of the Assad government. Damascus is now appealing for a global response at the UN Security Council.
While Israel persists in acting above international law, disregarding the UN Charter and all international norms, we witnessed today a provocative tour by Prime Minister Netanyahu in areas of southern Syria, subject to incursions by the Israeli army. My government strongly condemns this provocative tour, which epitomizes Israel's ongoing aggression against Syria and its people. We renew our call on the United Nations and this Council to take firm, immediate action to halt these violations, ensure they do not recur, and end the occupation.
Well, Israel has held the contested Golan Heights since a war in 1967. But last December, its military moved further, taking control of a UN-mandated buffer zone and sidelining the peacekeepers stationed there. Israeli forces have seized several towns and villages, setting up bases across the area. Well, Beirut-based journalist and commentator Mohammed Shamsuddin believes the Israeli PM is trying to draw attention away from mounting calls to probe his role in security failures during the October 7 terrorist attack.
As for the difference between before and now is that it exceeded the buffer zone. Israel advanced more than the 1974 agreement, and this is why it took a much hype today, or it gained a lot of attention today. Especially that the Trump administration is trying to broker a deal between Israel and Syria, in which Ahmed al-Shara's regime will admit or will concede that the already taken parts of Golan will be Israelis, while Israel will leave the rest of the land for Syria. It seems that the talks between Syria and Israel reached a dead end regarding this, because Israel, as reported by Syrian media or as reported by Syrian sources, that Israel wants the entirety of the Arab mountain, which has Golan in it. So Netanyahu is trying to send a message to all the players in Syria: I hold the power, I have the last say in Syria. You can do whatever you want, but you have to talk to me. Plus, add on that he has a way of running away from trial inside his own country, because he is going under investigations and trial. So he finds a way
to silence those who disagree with the right-on mainstream viewpoint. And accusations of working with Russia is a favourite narrative, as Angelo Dorsey has learned firsthand. A lecture by the renowned anti-fascist historian and professor from the University of Turin was abruptly stopped by a local political party because of his account of the situation in Donbass. The incident drew a lot of public attention, and the Italian professor eventually managed to give his address. Hundreds attended, with more watching outside via speakers. Overall, thousands saw it as the speech was streamed online. Pro-Ukrainian activists set up a protest against the lecture, but only around 50 people attended the rally. We got comment from Mr. Dorsey himself on his encounter with censorship.
When my conference was first cancelled, I felt disbelief, then bitterness, and later indignation, anger. Finally, I felt the desire to persevere, not to suffer this censorship, and I decided to organize the conference at another venue. People rallied around it. Instead of having 50 to 60 people in the audience, the conference saw at least 500 persons in the hall, and over 10,000 connected online. So, this way I turned a defeat into a resounding victory. Donbass is simply ignored in the mainstream Italian public discourse. It's absent. Long before February 24, 2022, I proposed this theme in newspaper articles, in public conferences, and even academic lectures. But I understood that I was almost alone in this. And after the start of the special military operation, I tried to bring awareness to the Donbass affair many times. And I did this every time I had the chance to speak and write. But each time I was labeled as a Putinist, a follower of President Vladimir Putin. That means I was labeled as a propagandist, not as a historian, which is my profession, even though I trained as a philosopher. and I am especially focused on political ideas and ideologies. In my work as a researcher and writer, I have always been especially attentive to two factors. The first is periodization, which involves identifying breaks and discontinuities in the timeline of history. And second, the search for causes, the reasoning behind what is happening. It's clear that if one believes that the war began on February 24th of 2022, and you ignore everything that happened before 2014, you cannot understand these events. And it is equally clear that it is essential to identify all the causes that led the Russian Federation to start the special operation. I underline all those causes. In general, the Italian public at large completely ignores the historical events since 2014 to today, and the major media patrons do not want people to know and speak about these events. They imposed a single narrative, accusing the Russian Federation of aggression towards an independent state. So people think in a binary way that Russia is guilty while Ukraine and the West are innocent. It's very difficult to dismantle this narrative mechanism because it is repeated every day by most journalists and commentators who are primarily responsible for this corruption of truth. And in the end, reality is completely changed, completely overturned through this narrative, where Putin is the bad guy and Zelensky is the good guy. Russia is the executioner and Ukraine is the victim. And a common idea is being created that Russia will attack the rest of Europe after Ukraine, up to the very shores of the Atlantic Ocean, up to Lisbon, Portugal. So I myself, in trying to overturn this narrative, often face difficulties when it comes to reaching the most important media. Anyway, I would never have imagined that they would try to cancel one of my conferences. I would like for the right to express points of view that are different from those of the mainstream to always be guaranteed. For them to be allowed space in universities, in all public institutions, especially when it comes to those who, like me, do not accept Russophobia and raise their voices against Russophobia. It's become a word that one cannot even speak nowadays in Italy. Russophobia has become a prohibited word, and those who speak out like me should not be labeled as Russian agents or an emissary of Vladimir Putin. I am just an independent researcher who is looking for the truth, and it is really grievous that I was prevented from speaking at a public institution which is funded through public tax, including my own taxes. This is very sad.
Okay, just returning to that feed we took a few minutes ago, and just summarizing what we heard from it. Russian forces have fully taken the city of Kupiansk in Ukraine's Kharkov region and are close to victory in the key Donbass hub of Krasnoarmysk, also called Pokrovsk. That is the main takeaway from President Putin's visit to a military command post on the Western Front, where he was briefed by top generals.
Товарищ Верховный Главнокомандующий, вооруженные силы.
Yes, Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, the armed forces of the Russian Federation continue to carry out their operations as part of the special military operation. We are advancing across almost all areas, furthering the success that has been reached during the summer campaign. The enemy tries to stop our troops. It's concentrated on trying to destabilize the situation in the Krasnoarmysk direction. The Sever Army Group and continues to create in Sumskaya and Kharkov region their own checkpoints and move further, liberating Volchansk and other towns. We have also liberated Kupiansk and continue to destroy Ukrainian troops near Oskol River. The South Army Group continues to advance near Seversk and Konstantinovka. Most active operations are taking place carried out by the Center Army Group. The enemy is trying to stand back and de-block the area. The Center Army troops continue to destroy Ukrainian forces, Gnatovka, Sukhoy, Yar, and others locales that are close to Krasnoarmeysk are being liberated. They have been liberated. 75% of Krasnoarmeysk, the city proper, has been liberated and is under Russian control. We continue to expand our control over Zaporozhye region, and we have liberated a territory of about 230 square kilometers. 13 towns and villages have been liberated by our troops. We have advanced to the Gaichu River and continue our advance. Now, in the Zaporozhye direction, the village of Malaya Takmachka has been liberated. We are fighting right now for Stepnogorsk and Primorsk. We continue to respond by attacking Ukrainian defense infrastructure, security infrastructure, and energy infrastructure.
Valery Gerasimov and the Russian Chief of General Staff also said many encircled Ukrainian troops risk being killed by their own forces if they try to surrender.
Given how dire the situation is for many of the Ukrainian troops, a lot of their servicemen make that decision, but they are threatened by their own army officers. They are being threatened by UAVs that attack their own, so they feel fear and they are hindered from giving up their arms, from surrendering. Well, we understand this is the doing of the Ukrainian political leadership since March last year. This criminal group of people, not a government at all, a criminal community, since March last year, it has usurped power in Ukraine, and it continues to hold that power to fight against Russia and to enrich themselves, something that has become well known following the anti-corruption investigation that took place in Ukraine itself. I'm sure that all of you and everyone, in fact, understands that these people with their golden toilets, I don't think they think about the future of their country, about the lives of ordinary Ukrainians, about their officers, let alone ordinary servicemen and infantrymen. But we have goals of our own, and the most important one is to carry out the goals of the special military operation.
Let's cross live now to our senior correspondent, Murat Gazdiev. Murat, evening. Big developments on the front. You'll be familiar with many of the areas mentioned.
Well, of course, this is the second time that Vladimir Putin has appeared in camouflage since the capture of Sudzha. We were there. We remember Vladimir Putin visited Kursk region when it was declared that the entirety of Kursk region had been liberated. But in this case, he came to listen to reports from the heads of different Russian army groups, where they reported that the city of Kupiansk, a vital city, a logistics hub and a fortress for the Ukrainian military, previously has been liberated by the Russian army. We've also heard that there are counterattacks ongoing across the front lines by the Ukrainian military, where they're attempting to stabilize, for example, the front near Krasnoarmeysk or the city of Pokrovsk. 75% of which is now officially under Russian control, so reports the Ministry of Defense. Vladimir Putin also asked commanders how they are progressing, how they see the situation in general. They all agree that there is, that they're committing to and executing the plans that they've been given by the General Chief of Staffs, and that progress is everywhere in Kharkiv region, where they're assaulting the city of Volchansk, in Kharkiv region, also Kupiansk. We also heard the president stress that Konstantinovka, the city of Konstantinovka, which is just before Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, the two major fortresses for Ukraine in Donetsk region, that is a priority. And we've also learned that Russian forces are inside the city. Putin was told that the Russian military plans to capture the city by mid-December. He stressed, however, that they shouldn't commit to a timetable, that they should work and progress and assault the city as they see fit, without tying themselves to any schedules or timetables. Vladimir Putin also heard about successes in Zaporozhye region and Dnipropetrovsk region, where evident Russian breakthroughs are underway. 13 settlements in recent weeks being captured there by Russian troops. Vladimir Putin also opened by a small comment, but a telling comment about the political situation in Ukraine. He said that the Zelensky regime there is no longer a government. It's a group of criminals who have usurped power since March last year, and who are enriching themselves at the expense of Ukraine, at the expense of the Ukrainian people, sitting, as he said, on golden toilets, lording it over the country while robbing it blind. They have no concern for Ukrainian civilians, Ukrainian officers, and least of all for Ukrainian soldiers who are fighting against impossible odds on the front lines, whereby Vladimir Putin ordered his commanders to again guarantee and establish mechanisms for the safe surrender of Ukrainian troops across the front lines.
Yeah, the golden potties line was a sharp one, wasn't it? He mentioning the corruption scandal engulfing Kiev, as well as all those developments, as RT senior correspondent Murat Gazdeev has been talking us through. Murat, thank you for now. All right, that is where we leave the news hour for now. I'll be back at the top in just over 5-6 minutes with more on President Putin's comments, and also the general's remarks about the progression being made in the Ukraine conflict. A busy half hour ahead. Stay with RT International.
Mira.
5 kilometers front line.
Wow. Ночью проснулись, прилетело, загорелось. Тут же, извини, мама осталась без детей, без троих.
Noi non andiamo in Donbass a combattere con le armi, andiamo in Donbass a dimostrare al popolo del Donbass che l'Europa civile esiste. Noi che andiamo dal 2014 dimostriamo che nel 2014 l'Ucraina, aiutata dai nostri governi purtroppo, ha creato un colpo di Stato. E la propaganda del governo degli Stati Uniti entra nelle case e ci racconta che la Russia ha invaso l'Ucraina nel 2022. Nelle manifestazioni spesso ora si vede anche la bandiera della Russia e la bandiera di Donetsk e di Lugansk. A Madrid c'è una grossa comunità che partecipa alla carovana antifascista. Come dico sempre, andiamo in Donbass, incontriamo i vivi e i morti. Ti andiamo al cimitero, beviamo una vodka, cantiamo l'internazionale, perché è così che va. Ancora una volta siamo qui.
За годы войны в Сирии нанесен колоссальный ущерб. Боевики занялись обогащением. Наносились удары, скрывались масштабы хищений, то есть там все списывалось на войну.
هذه المجموعات بدأت بسرقة مجموعة من القطع الأثرية.
$15 000 можно было купить сосуд на черном рынке.
وهم من الشخصيات الأوروبية لأنهم كانوا يتحدثون باللغة الإنجليزية.
فهم يرشدون بوصلة لأدواتهم أين المكان المهم الذي يحتاج إلى سرقة.
Оно все сейчас находится или в Европе, или в Северной Америке.
You can find some Syrian items inside eBay.
هاي بالذات لها رقم متحفي. هاي غالبا مسروقة من متحف.
When old truths seem wrong, when old rules just don't hold, and a new world is yet to shape out, disdain becomes the etiquette, and engagement equals betrayal. When so many find themselves worlds apart, we choose to look for common ground.
The rapid collapse of the Ottoman Empire gave the Arabs hope for independence. But the colonial powers saw their future differently. Great Britain and France agreed on the seizure of the Arab lands under the guise of the so-called Mandate of the League of Nations. This foul play caused particular indignation in Iraq, which was to get under the control of the British. In May 1920, unrest with claim for independence broke out. Both the Sunni and the Shia took part in it. Soon the rallies turned into a real uprising against the invaders. More than 130,000 people took up arms. Britain urgently began to transfer reinforcements to Iraq and used aircraft. British War Secretary Winston Churchill urged the use of chemical weapons against the rebels, and General Sir Aylmer Haldane ordered the destruction of any village where weapons were found. Burning a village properly takes a long time, an hour or more according to size, Haldane recalled cynically in his memoirs. The medieval cruelty paid off. The revolt was crushed. However, the British Empire had to make serious concessions. In 1921, it recognized Faisal I as the king of Iraq and gave part of the power to representatives of the local population. The Iraqi revolt marked the beginning of the national consolidation of the country and became an important milestone on the way to final independence.
For 20 years, we've broken all the rules you invented.
You're watching RT.
أنتم تشاهدون قناة RT.
Están viendo RT.
Vous regardez RT.
Here's today.
You claimed we were brainwashing your citizens. You accused us of running troll factories. You screamed that we buy off bloggers and celebrities. Made Trump great, and then made him great again.
Russia today is capable of conducting information war.
We know that RT possess cyber capabilities.
To ban Russia today because of the nature of propaganda.
Get in the bullhorn.
Are we a propaganda bullhorn? Well, it's time to say sorry. Sorry not everyone has heard us yet. We're always working on making our bullhorn louder.
sever army group and continues to create in Sumskaya and Kharkov region. We have also liberated Kupiansk.
Breaking news, Russia's top generals report taking full control of the key city of Kupiansk amid advances across most fronts in the Ukraine conflict, with thousands of Kiev's troops encircled. Well, the briefing with the Russian president at a military command post comes as Western media report the US is, quote, forcing a peace plan draft on Ukraine, and comes amid a spiraling corruption scandal in Kiev. Vladimir Putin says the story speaks volumes about the priorities of the Zelensky government.
These people with their golden toilets, I don't think they think about the future of their country, about the lives of ordinary Ukrainians, about their officers, let alone ordinary servicemen.
And that's as the Kremlin says Russia's position on Ukraine has not changed since the Alaska summit in August, and Moscow remains committed to finding a diplomatic solution, one which will resolve the root causes of the conflict. Just after 10 at night this Thursday here in Moscow. Good to have your company for the news wrap. My name's Ewan O'Neill. Russian forces have fully taken the city of Kupiansk in Ukraine's Kharkov region and are close to victory in the key Donbas hub of Krasnoarmeysk, also known as Pokrovsk. That is the main takeaway from President Putin's visit to a military command post on the Western Front, where he was briefed by top generals.
Товарищ Верховный Главнокомандующий, вооруженные силы.
Yes, Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, the armed forces of the Russian Federation continue to carry out their operations as part of the special military operation. We are advancing across almost all areas, furthering the success that has been reached during the summer campaign. The enemy tries to stop our troops. It's concentrated on trying to destabilizing the situation in the Krasnoarmeysk direction. The center army troops continue to destroy Ukrainian forces. Gnatovka, Sukhoy, Yar, and other locales that are close to Krasnoarmeysk have been liberated. 75% of Krasnoarmeysk, the city proper, has been liberated and is under Russian control.
Well, let's bring in our senior correspondent, Murat Gazdiev. Murat, a thorough breakdown there by the general staff of where things stand on the front lines, including some significant developments.
Well, we saw Vladimir Putin there, attired in camouflage, attending a meeting of the heads of Russian army groups, where he asked them for reports about the state of affairs across the front lines. They reported major successes amongst four Ukrainian regions. That is Kharkov region, where Russian forces have taken 80% of the border city of Volchansk. They have liberated entirely the city of Kupiansk, for which there has been a major battle waged, which Ukraine has attempted to counterattack over the past week, ceaselessly throwing men and resources into the grinder unsuccessfully. They are still trying to break into the city to cut off Russian supply lines from the flank. Nevertheless, the city of Kupiansk has officially been taken. Now, the Russian military, before declaring a settlement taken, they wait, a few years after everyone's, all the mappers and OSINT analysts have declared it taken. Only then, when they're 100% sure, they declare it taken. So certainly the city of Kupiansk is firmly now under Russian control. Again, there were also successes reported further south. The city of Konstantinovka, a major city with 40,000 buildings. Russian forces have entered it. Here, Russian commanders said that they plan on taking the city, again, a huge city, by mid-December, where Vladimir Putin cautioned them not to tie themselves to schedules and timetables. He said, do as you see fit, take as much time as you want, but get it done thoroughly without rushing. We also heard that 75% of the city of Pokrovsk 75% is now under Russian control. The city of Pokrovsk, also known as the city of Krasnoarmeysk. There also we know that a large group of Ukrainian servicemen are trapped, entirely surrounded at this point with no way out. We've also seen, well, we heard Vladimir Putin again ask commanders to ensure that there is a mechanism in place whereby Ukrainian units can surrender safely.
I'd like for you to report to me whether you can create the conditions, just as I've asked of you, if we can make sure that the Ukrainian servicemen have an opportunity to lay down their arms, given the direness, given how dire the situation is for many of the Ukrainian troops. A lot of their servicemen make that decision, but they are threatened by their own army officers. They are being threatened by UAVs that attack their own, so they feel fear and they are hindered from giving up their arms, from surrendering. Well, we understand this is the doing of the Ukrainian political leadership since March last year. This criminal group of people, not a government at all, a criminal community. Since March last year, it has usurped power in Ukraine, and it continues to hold that power to fight against Russia and to enrich themselves, something that has become well known following the anti-corruption investigation that took place in Ukraine itself. I'm sure that all of you and everyone, in fact, understands that these people with their golden toilets, I don't think they think about the future of their country, about the lives of ordinary Ukrainians, about their officers, let alone ordinary servicemen and infantrymen. But we have goals of our own, and the most important one is to carry out the goals of the special military operation.
Oh, there you go. Putin's view on what the Ukrainian government is, who they are. Criminals, he says, sitting on golden toilets, robbing Ukraine, blind, uncaring as to the fate of ordinary Ukrainians, especially those Ukrainian servicemen now surrounded in pockets by Russian forces, where they are forbidden to surrender, where they are targeted by Ukraine's own drones if they attempt to surrender. But we also heard about successes across Zaporozhye region, across Dnipropetrovsk region, where perhaps Ukrainian defenses, or certainly Ukrainian defenses, are weakest, where their critical shortage in manpower is most telling, with the president being briefed on 13 settlements, for example, that have been taken in a week by Russian forces. There, where Ukraine is sounding the alarm bells, activists across Ukraine saying, you know, there is a strategic collapse brewing for Ukrainian forces across Zaporozhye, Dnipropetrovsk region. So certainly Putin has been briefed on the state of affairs across the front lines. Undoubtedly, there is political subtext to what we saw, this briefing with cameras, whereby it is to show that the sheer scale of the catastrophe brewing on Ukraine's side, whereby their front lines, due overwhelmingly to a lack of manpower and a lack of morale. Nobody wants to go serve in an army in a losing war where the leadership is robbing the country blind. So certainly very thorough explanation by Russian military commanders for Putin.
Yeah, and we're going to delve into a lot of those points you raised, Murat, in just a moment with our guest. Thanks for breaking down all that for us, the advances on the front by the Russian military today. RT's Murat Gustiev. Well, indeed. Let's cross live now to independent Dutch journalist Sonja van den Ende. Sonja, good to see you. We heard quite a lot of developments there on the front by the general staff and the Russian president himself. Just firstly, in terms of what seemed to be the main news line, the taking of Kupiansk, how